Okay, the final step is sorting out the controls. You're going to need these two control horns, and you're going to need this little piece of PTFE tube. Now, obviously just give them a bit of a clean with the sandpaper, just sort them out. Little top tip, the laser cutting is brilliant, but it doesn't go all the way through. So what I did was, with a pair of flat nose pliers, I just grabbed the longest piece, which is the rudder bit, like so, and I just slowly worked these so that they go, make sure that your wire goes all the way through, because what you don't want to do is get your hinge all installed and then it's really difficulty then opening up that hole. So it's just a little tip there. So what I'm going to do is, as my rudder is going to go, my rudder run is going to follow the, you want to follow the boom back all the way, and then the horn, the holes want to be directly over the hinge line. So do not put your hinge here or here, you want your hinge directly over the hinge line. If you can see that or not, just there, like so. Okay, so I've cut a small slot for the horn. The horn fits in there like so. I'm now going to super glue that. Right, so I've added the horn. We're just doing the rudder at the moment. I've added the horn, your tube, PTFE tube. Mine comes in at just over 50. So it needs cutting into 5 sections. So I'm just going to cut these into 5 sections. Now, tip there, when you're cutting them, put your finger either side, because otherwise I'll guarantee you they'll fire off into your shed, your cabin, your house, or wherever it is you're doing it, and you'll never see them again. And then put them somewhere safe. So just a finger either side of where you're cutting. Use a very sharp knife. Now, whatever you do, do not do any bending for this control horn before you slid the 3 PTF tubes that have got to go on there. So remember, what did Nick say? Put the 3 tubes on the metal rod before we do any bending. So the idea is, I'm going to hold that flat on the bench with that chap like that. I'm then going to slide the 3 tubes on, and then I'm going to hold that wire in place, measure twice, bend once. So what we're going to do is when I'm going to mark exactly where the hole is, I'm then going to bend a 90-degree bend downwards, and I want at least a minimum of 5 mil. I'd say you want at least 5 to 7 mil of the bend, the shank, because what we're going to do with that, when we fed it in and we're happy with it, I'm going to put a little bit of heat shrink tube on the end and just wick a little bit of super glue on. That stops it coming out. So that's the next step. So what did I say? Put your PTFE tubes on before you bend the wires. So I've got my 3 PTF tubes on. The rudder's flat to the bench. I'm holding the wire next to the control horn and I've marked it. I'm just going to check again. Now, so the next thing I'm going to do is, there's my mark. that's what I've done. I've got a 90-degree bend and I'm going to cut a bit of that off. So that's obviously way too long, but that was just to give you some idea. You're going to take it out because you don't want to be cutting it when it's actually in place, because you might end up just damaging the horn. So the advice, adding the tubes, the advice is, I'm assuming it's from the boom, the first one is 30, the next one is 120, and the next one is 210, which puts it about there. Now, be very, very careful when adding the super glue and sticking these tubes to the side of the fuselage. You have to use your glue very sparingly, because if it wicks down inside the tube, you're finished. It's just going to seize it right up. It's better just to tack this in place and then add a little bit of glue later. But yeah, be very, very sparing with your glue here. So there's one at about 30. Here's one at 120. So I've added the horn to the elevator. Same thing as before. Slide your PTF tubes on. And what I'm going to do this time is, I haven't finally glued the tail plane on yet. And what I'm going to do is, I am going to get this all in position. Then I'm going to stick the wings on. I'm going to feed the control horn in, and then the final thing I'm going to do is to glue the tail plane onto the mounting. So the next thing for me to do is, as the last time, just measure up here against the hole. Remember, make sure that the elevator is flat. If you're not sure about the elevator, if you get a couple of bits of your scrap from the wing, what you can do is add that like that, and then very carefully, make sure it's not too strong a clamp. And this will make sure that your elevator is in the right position. So I now know I've got a neutral elevator. I've put the balsa wood on there because what we don't want to do is don't want to be damaging all our lovely film work. So that's now in place, and all I'm going to do is mark where the elevator hole is. So remembering the golden rule, mark twice, bend once. Okay, so I have now added the push rod to the horn. I've added the two tubes for the elevator. I have gone slightly off plan. I put one at 90, which is here, and then the other one at 180. Now, the next step is, I haven't fixed the tail plane yet, so the next step is, I'm just going to add this little bit of heat shrink to the ends of the wire. Then I'm going to put the wings on, and then when I'm going to get the tail plane fully squared up, and then I'm going to super glue, just run a little seam of super glue along this joint here, and that will be her finished. So there's my bit of heat shrink, and just shrinking that down. Now if you don't have heat shrink, if you've got an old bit of gash servo wire kicking about, you can use the servo wire and slide that on, and then just wick some super glue into that. Right, now that has shrunk down onto there. Lovely jubbly. That's on there like so. And then all we do is we get some super glue. And just drip a little bit of super glue down there. Job done. And that's exactly what I'm going to do to the elevator as well. Okay, there she is, all finished. The only thing I have to do now is I'm going to measure up, square up, make sure that the tail is square with the wing. When I'm happy, I'm just going to wick a little bit of super glue underneath, and then that's job done. And then we're just going to check the gear and the CG. Right, there you go, she's all finished. She ran in weight wise at 94 grams. I just cut down the pegs slightly, just wicked in a little bit of glue, and just spent some time slowly wicking in some glue. I've got to say, I really enjoyed building this kit. Alfie Whitehead, all the bits are in the bag. Great job, mate. Andy Whitehead, I don't know you, but everybody at Angel Wing Designs, absolutely superb. I really have enjoyed building this, and I'm really looking forward to flying her. And have you guys seen the weather for the weekend? Thank me for that. Anyway, let's get to the field and check her out.